But back to Pickens. That's the story of the day still. These three things are true. These three things are true with the Steelers and receivers. One, they identify receiving talent as good or probably better than anybody in the NFL in the draft. They do. They identify it better. That's just true. Two, they usually develop it quickly. These guys usually make their mark very early in their careers. Pickens had an 800-yard rookie season. Martavis Bryant comes to mind. Halfway through, not even, I think, his rookie year, he was suddenly inserted into the lineup and everything changed. He was great. Chase Claypool was fabulous as a rookie. Antonio Brown made a big play in the playoffs. It didn't take him too long, to become really good. So that's true, too, and inarguable. The talent that they identify often makes a mark very early in the league. So far, so good, right? But here's the third thing that's true and inarguable, is that these receivers who come here tend to go south at some point. And more importantly, and the real point is, once they start to go south, they're not salvageable. They just keep going all the way out of town. And that's on the head coach. It's on the receivers, yes. But when it becomes a pattern to the point it is, it's also on the head coach. I thought that Mike Tomlin had the reputation for players loving him and respecting him and keeping these guys under control and all of that. Well, what about the receiver position? Martavis Bryant, all he had to do was beg for a trade on social media. Say he's not getting the ball enough. Eventually, he's gone out of town. Once it went south, it never stopped. He was gone. Chase Claypool. I guess the point of demarcation there was requesting music and practice limits. And if you can find the Tomlin clip, and I should have told you this earlier, of Tomlin saying, I'll decide how the practices go. He needs to catch footballs. I think that's an appropriate division of labor. If you could find that, I'll give you even higher marks than the Brian Kelly clip. Deontay Johnson, we know that story. Once it went south, you finish the sentence, right? Antonio Brown, I don't even have to tell you. Once it went south, the next thing you know, he had frozen feet in Oakland or Vegas or wherever the hell they were at that point. Frozen feet guy. Am I forgetting anybody? Deontay, Chase Claypool, Antonio Brown, Martavis. Oh, yeah. George Pickens. So that's the only important question right now. I give the Steelers look right about Pickens to this point in his career, even with all the crap. They do. He was the 11th receiver taken. The only guys who have been better than him have been Olave and Garrett Wilson. He's like in the top 5 in all the important categories pretty much, or thereabouts. I think he's 4th in yards, 3rd in catches, that type of thing. They got him as the 11th receiver, the 52nd pick. So to this point, he's helped them win games. They look right to this point, but that's not the question. That's not the question anymore. Were the Steelers right about George? Was it a good pick? Is he a talented kid? Has he been productive? All of that, yes. The only important point right now is it has started to go south again, and is he retrievable? Because we've now reached the point where you're going to have to pay him. Jerry Dulac had a story from training camp saying the Steelers absolutely intend to pay George Pickens, even if they get Ayuk. That was the story at the time. Love Pickens, love his production, going to pay him no matter what. That was the story. So the only important thing about George Pickens right now is he salvageable? Or, like with all these other guys, has he started to move in the wrong direction? And how do you stop that and reverse it if you're Mike Tomlin? Not a real good track record for Tomlin there. So then you start to wonder when people like Rossini and Lockenfora are reporting that Pickens could actually be traded Yeah, the Steelers are aggressively looking at receivers, but they might consider trading him too. I believe it. Because I guess if you wanted to add a fourth truth to this story, is that the Steelers have not been hesitant that once these guys are deemed irretrievable, they get them out of town. So I've reached the point where I wouldn't be shocked if Pickens were traded.